Friends, please settle down. We would begin. Minister is slightly delayed, but we would begin the program. I would request all the dignitaries to come on dais. Dr. Famida Khatun, please come on dais. Dr. Paras Sabir, please bring them in.
Good evening, everyone. It is really heartening to see all of you, and we are really grateful that you have graced this special day for us when we are celebrating the rich legacy of RIS, the 40th anniversary, with very dear colleagues, very senior colleagues who have guided us all these years. And how could we have not invited all of them to be with us today? So it's a great moment for us. So with these few words, I would now request Director General Professor Sachin Chaturvedi to formally welcome all of you and lay the context and the idea with which we have started off this conference. Please.
Thank you. Thanks, Sabya. Very warm greetings to everyone. It's a great pleasure to have all of you with us here as we are awaiting the Honorable Minister to arrive. We thought we would begin as all of us have gathered already. This is formal and very informal event. So I think it's formal in the sense that we have the kind of settings that are required to host a minister, but this is also a family get-together for RIS. Today, just before this, we had a round of discussion with all our faculty colleagues with whom Dr. Panchamukhi, Shukma Chakravarti and G. Patsati began this institute in 83. So 83, 84, there were 7 faculty members and 5 of them were here today with us, with whom we just discussed how things evolved, and they answered some questions from our young colleagues. So that way it was more about how research policies focus actually begin. And also I think it's a great experiment in terms of how collective leadership in a research institution should be there. And this collective leadership, it largely remains democratic as long as participation continues and contributions come up. And from that perspective, RIS has been quite fortunate to have this collective leadership from all stalwarts from different fields. And this was largely what came out in our discussion today. We thought that mere family get together would not help, so we also tried to bring in the very favorite area with which RIS began this journey 40 years ago, and that is South Asia. The South Asia identity, the role of India's foreign policy, India's engagement, but also engagement of our neighbors, how things have evolved. So we thought that we would get together, we would explore what has happened in 40 years, what have we done, where we were successful. So we invited some people and we had some discussions, but we also had discussions in terms of bringing in subject experts from neighboring countries, from India, to discuss South Asia economic integration. So today, with this inaugural, we thought we would have Watanabe-san to lead us. He's heading one of the most important think tank in Asia area, which is based in Jakarta, and they have been working on regional integration, largely focusing on ASEAN, but also with other partner countries in the East Asia Summit process. So, what led to RCEP? And that's where we have been discussing in terms of what are the lessons South Asia can learn from ASEAN. And this is nothing new that I'm saying. It has been largely part of that journey. So we thought that this event, we would focus on regional integration, we would bring in South Asia, but we would also bring in faculty colleagues that would give us the message in terms of how research institutions can actually position themselves and take the idea forward. I also wanted to bring in here great sort of revisiting the history that has happened in last few months at RIS. When we began the journey in 1983, the idea was that RIS should focus on global south, and this was something that was going on at the global level after the great oil shock. And the idea was that OECD came up as part of the great oil shock, and OECD started functioning. But developing countries had no think tank, and they thought that in Algiers there was non-aligned movements G77 meeting, and they thought that they should have a think tank, a sort of research and information system that strengthens the information that is needed for analysis. And this is something that they again discussed in Havana in 1979. But there was no agreement in terms of who would host the research and information system. So they had one meeting in 1976 in Belgrade, and then in 1979 in New Delhi, where they discussed that a research and information system should be established. But no resources were coming up. So in 1983, when India hosted the non-aligned summit, Mrs. Gandhi announced setting up of a research and information system with an institutional format in Delhi, and the task was given to G. Parthasarathy, and he roped in Professor Sukhmoy Chakravarti, and that time Dr. Manmohan Singh was also part of the team, and they got in Professor V.R. Panchamukhi. And that's how the journey began. We took some space in India International Center, and we remained in that space till India Habitat Center came up in 1995. And since 95, RIS is in India Habitat Center. The idea and philosophy that came up, and little later we would be launching a volume when Minister is here, and this volume has 26 contributions from different scholars, academics, and those who shaped this journey. And just in two lines, if I say, it is largely a narrative which had contestations in terms of north and south, east and west, but also the possibility, and as India's foreign policy has always articulated, in terms of convergence. How do we bring in that convergence? How do we minimize the development gap? And that dimension adequately emanated out of all RIS work in terms of complementarities that exist in the region, the possibilities of sort of strengthening trade, investment, technology, and finance linkages in the region. All those dimensions RIS has come up with in this field. So that largely has given us the sort of bandwidth to contribute. And they, in this journey, a lot of research, publications, reports, conference seminars happen. So we also thought that there should also be a second volume where we bring in methodological contributions, insights that RIS has made. So then again, we pulled in our young researchers to identify what technique they feel is important, and from that perspective, some 20 sort of concepts, ideas, research methods were identified. So today we are going to launch that. There was this discussion just now that RIS should also expand, because trade is not just trade, it is largely in terms of economy. And friends and colleagues, as you would agree, the whole of the last century, GDP growth at the global level was largely led by international trade. In last couple of years, particularly after Lehman Brothers collapse and the recession in the north, we find that trade has decelerated. And this deceleration has also got in many other dimensions upfront. And that is the reason why in the G20, after the meetings of financial leaders, governors, central bank governors, and finance ministers, it was realized that finance cannot give solution for finance. They require development to come in, and people like Professor Pulin Nayak, who is here, development comes up right at the center. And if we don't bring in development related issues, trade cannot go very far. And thanks to Dr. Nagesh, who is here, we began this journey with the trade and development reports, and this was largely an effort in Cancun WTO ministerial, where we brought in development centrality of the larger economic canvas. And this G20 got in with Sherpa track. So the finance track and Sherpa track, they came in with this centrality. And RIS has also tried to do that. In last sort of 8 years, we have heavily got into sustainable development goals. Ambassador Devre is here, who is leading our research advisory committee. We have deepened our work there, and gender related work got in children, and that's why Cynthia is here with us on the dais, head of UNICEF in Delhi. With UNICEF, we are deepening our work on SDGs. We are trying to see how this work can contribute in terms of various dimensions of engagement. And this is not alone. With Shambhi Sharp and his team, we have tried to go to states, and in different states, we are trying to work out what details are possible in terms of contribution to bring in this diversity in the area. The idea of RIS engagement with South Asia, and today I'm so glad that Paras and Famida both are on dais with us. They represent two very important think tanks in the region, and RIS, with thanks to our leadership here, thanks to the collective efforts that have been made in last 30 years, starting with Professor Arjun Sen Gupta, we could bring in the idea of connect with Professor Muchkund Dubey and Professor Rahman Subhan and Madam Ronak Jahan is they are here. With them, we could bring in the regional connect of RIS through SASEPs in a major way. And this work, I think, is important in terms of South Asia Economic Summit, so successfully hosted by Bangladesh just last month. It has given RIS that bandwidth in terms of how it is important for ACT East to get connected with our neighbors, and that's where RIS contribution has bring in the dimensions. So the thematic focus of RIS work program, the physical connect with various institutions, regional groupings, be that BIMSTEC, SAARC, IORA, you name it, and RIS has contributed. Issue also came up today in our discussion: when did RIS drop non-aligned movement from its name? And we were just sort of recalling how it all happened. But I think it is important to see that very few of the developing world, particularly countries like Brazil, etc., with whom our work expanded, they were not part of non-aligned movement. But now you see whether NEM is back, the days are back, importance of global south, things come back to us so fast and in so many different manifestations that you're not sure how they are going to bring back the research agenda. The new economic order is not something that we are not seeing now. And if you see initial papers in RIS 83, 84, 85, and I would say till 86, lot of papers on NIEO, they were published. And now again we are hearing the same words again in terms of partnership, in terms of contribution, and also in terms of bandwidth. As COP28 is going on, we are also realizing the value of the global south, the role of finance, former finance minister Nepal, former central bank governor Bangladesh, they are both are here. They realize the value in terms of how this is going to bring in new challenges, and that's where RIS deepened the work on finance and have tried to bring forward the dimensions that are important in the interlinkages of trade, investment, finance, and technology. This is something that we began with. That's something where we were trying to analyze what dimensions are important. But of course, new streams are also getting added to RIS work program. The latest one that we began with in 2016 is the whole role of traditional medicine. Professor T.C. James, Namrata, they are the ones who are working on access and benefit sharing. The whole protocol emerged out of that in early 90s with Dr. Biswajit Dhar and others. We worked and we shaped that agenda. Now it is one of very important streams. Almost $18 billion is the Ayush industry in India at this point. And we are trying to see a major quantum of this getting exported. So this has happened largely because adaptability, diversification, and expansion, all three have happened simultaneously in RIS, and that connect, I think, is extremely important. I am extremely thankful to each one of you for sparing your time over a weekend, and those who have committed for tomorrow morning. I'm really thankful to everyone. I very warmly welcome all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for very, very elaborate history of RIS. Indeed, we are very enthused as colleagues and as part of this institution created by stalwarts. And now I have great pleasure in welcoming Dr. Famida Khatun, Executive Director, Center for Policy Dialogue, Bangladesh, for her special remarks.
My dear friend, Dr. Sachin Chaturvedi, dear RIS colleagues, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. On behalf of the Center for Policy Dialogue Bangladesh, I would like to express my heartiest congratulations to RIS for completing a journey of 40 remarkable years. It is indeed a proud moment for RIS and all colleagues of RIS, and my special appreciation for its previous and current leaderships for navigating the organization forward so successfully. And we have heard from Dr. Sachin Chaturvedi that the vast areas of research they have conducted during this last 4 decades, and some of which have been reflected in the policies. And therefore, we feel that during these last 40 years, RIS has grown from strength to strength, and it has increased its coverage of issues, its outreach, its partnership, its network within India, within South Asia, and also at the global level. It has now a strong footing all over the world. In fact, my own organization, CPD, is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. And CPD has a strong partnership with RIS since its early days. This partnership is based on common goals and values. Both organizations believe in regional integration, which is the theme of this meeting today and tomorrow. And both the organizations believe that through regional integration, we can overcome the economic challenges in the region. Over the years, this partnership has become more stronger and healthier. In fact, RIS and CPD have long history of collaborating in many occasions. SASEPs, South Asia Center for Economic Partnership Policy Studies, and also SAIS, which Dr. Chaturvedi also mentioned, the South Asia Economic Summit. These are two important examples of partnership, but we have been partnering on many issues, BIMSTEC, BBIN, and then many on trade-related issues, macro issues, health issues, SDGs, and many more. Recently, RIS is hosting the Global South Center of Excellence, which aims to work more extensively on issues of the Global South. This is a timely initiative for several reasons, because you all are aware that economies of the Global South, like all other countries, are battling to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. The Ukraine war and subsequent global economic challenges are also having multidimensional impacts on the developing countries. High inflationary pressure as a result of unabated prices of food, fuel, and fertilizer has given rise to internal economic and social challenges within countries. Many developing countries are finding it difficult to maintain macroeconomic stability and sustain the economic growth momentum experienced in the recent past. Moreover, geopolitical tensions are creating pressures in the countries of the Global South. They are faced with challenges emanated from climate change and debt burden, which are pushing many countries behind. This is creating inequality between the countries of the North and the South. Unfortunately, the international organizations have not been able to cater to the needs of the developing countries. Currently, there are insufficient finance and unfavorable trade rules for these countries, and this emphasizes the need for reform of the international organizations. The multilateral trading system, multilateral development banks, and climate negotiations, which is ongoing right now, are some of the examples where the role of the Global South has to be strengthened in shaping the global agenda. Think tanks of the Global South are working on this. Though the Southern think tanks are generating their own development narratives nowadays, these often remain outside the domain of the Global North. There was a time when the imagery of Global South was anchored narrowly to issues such as poverty, foreign aid, and power asymmetries. But social and economic realities of the Global South has undergone sea change. Many least developed countries have graduated, many lower middle income countries have graduated to middle income countries. However, there are some power asymmetries. But given these facts, there is a need for decolonizing knowledge, which is becoming prominent in the Global South. So there is a need to reimagine the need of the Global South. It is increasingly felt that the Global South should be positioned as an equal knowledge partner of the global knowledge discourse. In this regard, I would like to recommend enhanced conversations among think tanks of the region, and this conversation should have a few overarching goals. I would like to mention 4. First, driving new modalities of South-South and South-North conversations. Second, consolidating coalition of think tanks around key milestones such as SDGs, climate, technology, and so on. Third, distilling Southern experiences into global development narratives, which are often ignored or unnoticed. And fourth, centering justice and sustainability in the development agenda. In this journey, CPD is committed to work together with RIS and other like-minded partners from the South and the North. Finally, once again, my best wishes for RIS and each of its members for an equally successful 40 years ahead. Good evening.
Thank you, ma'am, for your warm wishes and words of support. And I have personally been have benefited a lot with the collaboration with CPD and the way we undertake our activities jointly, and that has helped the cause greatly. Now I invite Dr. Paras Kharil, Executive Director of Swati, Nepal, once again, a very close partner for RIS. Thank you for joining us. You have the floor.
Namaste and good evening. The Director General of RIS, Professor Sachin Chaturvedi, distinguished panelists, and ladies and gentlemen. So to me the message is clear. Even before the conference gets full swing from tomorrow, the message that India values and sees value in South Asian cooperation and integration. The South Asia in its entirety, even as it pursues or leads sub-regional or trans-regional initiatives. That RIS is celebrating its 40th birthday, choosing South Asian integration as an overarching theme, to me, says so. It is a think tank that is part of the Ministry of External Affairs and Culture, and I would like to believe that this is a portent, an indication for further advances in meaningful regional cooperation at a region-wide level in the days ahead. And here it might be germane to remember that with the onset of COVID in early 2020, the Prime Minister of India chose SAARC as a forum, not any other forum, to convene a webinar of sorts of heads of government of neighboring countries to discuss ways to cope with the challenge presented by a common challenge called COVID. As India strives for a leadership role on the global stage, and as it confidently advances its identity as a civilizational state, it is seeking the support of the global south. That much we can know, even from the media. Extending India's full support to regional integration in its immediate neighborhood would be a smart strategy that will support ultimately its global leadership aspirations. This is a view not of an Indian, but as an outsider, but an observer. And I think it is fitting and meaningful that RIS, which was formed with a vision to advance India's interest in the world, but in doing so also championing the collective interests or shared interest of the developing world, is commemorating the 40th year of its establishment with the theme of South Asian cooperation. Congratulations to RIS on its 40th birthday and choosing this theme. It could have chosen any other theme. It is its prerogative. And let me share some of my impressions of RIS. It is a think tank that does policy relevant research, many of which are relevant and of interest to and useful to others in the region. I, for one, have long been a consumer of RIS research outputs, covering diverse topics from trade and investment to intellectual property rights, science, technology, innovation to connectivity, exemplified by the works of, among others, Nagesh Kumar, S.K. Mohanty, Bishwajit Dhar, Ravi Srinivas, Prabir De, that I have read over the recent years, in more recent times. Swati values the various forms of collaboration that RIS is pursuing with other think tanks across the region, and chief among those initiatives is the organization of the South Asia Economic Summit. The last edition was held in Dhaka, greatly by Center for Policy Dialogue, and with the Dhaka deliberations still fresh on our mind, and many of the participants, or quite a few of them, also attended that summit. And as we grapple with the question raised in the Dhaka summit, redefining South Asian cooperation, how to redefine it, how to re-pursue it, I believe that the deliberations tomorrow will further sharpen the ideas that emerge from the Dhaka summit, and will also provide further food for thought for the next summit, which will be held in Kathmandu and will be hosted by Swati. Now, remembering the contributions of our seniors and those who preceded us in any role is, I think, a South Asian culture, and more broadly, an Asian value. And RIS is upholding that today, as I can see from your program schedule for this session. And thank you, Dr. Sachin Chaturvedi, for this initiative. And also, congratulations to you for holding high the mantle of RIS in more recent times. And my best wishes for RIS. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kharil. We look forward to working even more closely with SOTI in the coming days. Now it's a great honor for me to welcome Professor Tetsuya Watanabe, the President of the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, ERIA in Jakarta. We have been greatly benefiting for their partnership all these years.
Good evening. First of all, congratulations. And Professor Sachin Chatterberry, Director General of RIS, Excellency, distinguished guests, my eminent colleagues and friends in India and from abroad, thank you for inviting me and ERIA, Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, at this momentous time when RIS celebrates its 40th year of establishment and equally 4 decades of service to the developing economies in Asia and outside Asia. As a long-time admirer of India and its growth story, I can truly say that RIS has indeed fulfilled its mandate by contributing to the growth story of India. I'll go a step further and say that RIS has also brought together the cooperation among the South in its several forms, which is now culminating in New Daxing, a center of excellence that will serve the global South. I congratulate the leadership team in India for raising a fine institution like RIS. Equally, the leadership at RIS over the years require our admiration, several of whom are present today in nurturing the institution and its ideas for 4 decades. It also gives me a chance to put on record the pivotal role played by RIS in the inception years of ERIA. Now, at that time, it was 15 years ago when our institute was established, and at that time, RIS was very instrumental to set up our institute area, and now Dr. Nagesh Kumar is here, and I very appreciate his support at that time and since then. Distinguished friends, 40 years is a long time for developing nation. Developing Asia has seen several ups and downs in this time. If we look back 1919, standing here in December 2023, the graph of Southeast Asia, East Asia, and South Asia can be plotted on chart with several ups and downs. But what differentiates our part of the world from the rest of the world is that every downturn has seen a V-shaped recovery. I recall the Asian financial crisis and the other crises we have seen since then. Developing Asia has always led the global growth. Now it has assumed the role of driver of economic growth in the world. India and Southeast Asia are projected to sustain their growth momentum. International forecasts indicate that while global growth rate will be approximately 3%, India and ASEAN economies are projected to exhibit robust growth at 6% and 5% respectively. Last 2 days, I was privileged to attend the CII-led Global Economic Policy Summit, where different facets of global economic growth were discussed. The Indo-Pacific architecture is changing. In the ongoing change in geopolitics and the shift in supply chain and investment destinations, India has an advantage point. However, it falls upon all of us to ensure India is able to convert this into game winning point. I heard at the summit yesterday and the day before, the word is tough optimism. Tough optimism. Minister Goyal emphasized that trade and, more importantly, exports will be the vehicle of growth in the months ahead. There is no time like now to move closer to the supply chain in Southeast Asia and East Asia. This integration will be a force for resilient growth in developing Asia. It will also address the quest for resilient and trustworthy and transparent supply chains. In the same CIA summit, I had an excellent session on Bangladesh entry into the supply chain of manufacturing in the region. These are the examples that will keep the Asia narratives, South Asia narratives, South Asia economic integration on the forward and upward mode. When further integration with the Southeast Asia of the South Asia and also on East and Africa and Europe on the West flank, developing Asia will remain be the center of growth. Last year and this year, developing Asia held the G20 presidency. Indonesia in 2020 and India 2023, very successfully. It is not a coincidence that in 2023, both the G7 in Japan and G20 meetings are hosted, developed and developing economies in Asia, reflecting the importance of our region in the global trade and trade-led development and prosperities. Moving ahead, successful digital transformation will be crucial for Asia. Developing Asia needs a digitally friendly ecosystem to accelerate digital transformation. But many leapfrog and innovation are happening here in India and Southeast Asia using state-of-the-art of digital technologies. Also, Asia's participation in the rule setting of digital economy is equally important. Development of digital economy requires rules and regulations, especially in the cyberspace, to ensure the free movement and accuracy of information and fair access to information, protection of consumers and privacy, security of payment, which India is spearheading, free trade and investment. In sum, Asia has to bring the voices of global south equally in the rule setting of digital economy to ensure market dynamics, fair competition, and inclusive regime of digital economy. Similarly, India and ASEAN should also the increasing risk of climate change that may undermine the sustainability of economic growth. We must integrate sustainability in all aspects of development to achieve the goals of robust economic growth and sustainable development. But in this regard, the important thing is energy transition. Like Europe and other developed world, where the economic growth is sort of saturated. But here in Southeast Asia and Asia, and South Asia, sorry, and Southeast Asia, India, and Indonesia, Philippines, and Vietnam are the economy of the rapid economic growth, and we need continued economic growth. So that will require continuing also emission of CO2 will continue to grow. So what is important is achieve economic growth, but at the same time chart the realistic and viable and various pathway to achieve the net zero goals, while sustaining economic growth trajectory in developing Asia. That is very important for us and for India, for South Asia, and also Southeast Asia. AREA is an economic think tank located at the heart of Southeast Asia. And of course, we are working for ASEAN, but also working for India and the wider region. And RIS is our strong partner, and AREA would like to further engage and make a more productive collaboration with RIS in addressing these critical challenges we commonly face in this part of the region, in this growth region of the world. I'm pleased to share that AREA launched the Digital Innovation and Sustainable Economy Center this August. The primary goal of the center is to facilitate business collaborations and academic collaborations among members spanning different countries and sectors in Southeast Asia and South Asia. Allow me to end here on the note, I wish to see RIS play an even greater role under the leadership of Professor Sachin in economic integration and the prosperity of developing Asia in the days ahead. In this journey, AREA will match your steps. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Professor Watanabe, for a very rich keynote address and capturing the new opportunities that beckons the region. May I now invite Ms. Cynthia for her brief remarks today.
Dr. Chakravarty and my fellow colleagues on the dais and my good friend, our fearless leader of the UN family, Shambi Sharp, and all of the dignitaries and leaders always present, I think, in RIS. You're never past in RIS. Congratulations on your 40th anniversary. Two broad reactions. Thank you, Dr. Chakravarty, for the opportunity for UNICEF to speak. Because my first observation and commending RIS is the incredible power of information and research. This is a very intimidating room. If we could bottle all of the intellectual power, the incredible experience, perspective that you've brought together from across the region, I think we could, if ever, try to use it to give light and energy and electricity to all of Delhi for at least a year, if we could just take the power. For an organization like the United Nations and UNICEF, that is incredible. And it is that information, it is that relevant research that's important as we look at how do we have impact on lives across the world. This is a partnership that UNICEF has used in India, but we're grateful to have it across South Asia. Dr. Chakravarty and his team have been important in providing insights with our South Asia office, working together, responding today for tomorrow. So that information, that research, that power is extremely important. For my second point, which is action and that focus on action. RIS and all of you across this network enable us to take the research with rigor, with perspective, and turn it into things that policies can decide, decision makers. Policy decisions can be based on this. So for UNICEF and children, we've been able to see the research, that perspective turn into very tangible actions. That means decisions around policies. It means decisions around budgets. A very tangible example is the work on the T20, G20, where working with RIS and under your leadership, Dr. Chaturvedi, we were talking about what it means to have a focus on investing in the earliest years of life. And so the T20 and the G20 were able to have in the communique a chapter on children. That is a very tangible language in black and white that decision makers, people who decide budgets, can take forward from the G20, and we can take that forward as the G20 goes to Brazil and then South Africa. Those things matter, and those are things that are hooks for us to grab onto. This action enables the United Nations and UNICEF to look at how do we take reaching the hardest to reach, the last mile, as we heard about, how do we bring that energy? And so UNICEF in India is working and building on India's incredible history of being a leader around children's rights. India was one of the first nations to ratify the Convention on the Rights of the Child. That means when you're doing research and when we're building and getting those insights from you, we're looking at how do we really build on those insights to do what's right, not just what seems that would be important. And that is a very fundamental impact that you're having. So I would just say again, congratulations. The rigor and the perspective of your research is important, and the way that you're able to help UNICEF and the United Nations put that into action, that we can turn that into policies that go into reasonable and understandable and accessible guidelines. And I would just share a story, because we talk about how to take social policy, how to take policies around education and investing in health in the earliest moments. But recently with our executive director, who was in UP, she met a young boy, Pushpendra. And because of the policies and the guidelines that had cascaded to the frontline Angawadi worker, Pushpendra, who was born underweight, was identified early as not developing at the rate he should be. And the Angawadi worker was able to have the training and the skills to identify him, to give him the nutrition, to give his mother the tools and the information that she needed, and then also encourage and make sure immunization stayed on track, stayed on time. Now, as a toddler, a 2-year-old toddler, Pushpendra is on the right track and on the right spectrum because of the policies and the budget investments that have been made to make sure that those frontline workers can identify Pushpendra. Another young person, that's Pushpendra at the earliest stage of life, that early investment. But the second is I met a young girl recently, a few weeks ago, Meena, in Gujarat, who, if the circumstances of her life had gone forward, probably would have been out of school. She's being raised by her grandparents, and because of policies and budgets that are informed by rigorous research, she's in a program that enables her to stay in school. She's now in grade 12 and preparing to go to nursing school. This is what rigorous research looks like, and this is what perspectives look like when we come together across South Asia and across Asia and make these into action that help protect the rights of every child and help truly invest in the future of a country like India, but also invest in the entire global South. Thank you so much, and thank you for the partnership that we've been able to build and make those types of realities happen.
Thank you, Ms. Cynthia, for your very, very kind words. I remember we were together in Bhopal early on this year, and again we are here today in December. I would like to acknowledge the very kind presence of Ambassador Jayant Das Gupta, who is our governing board member. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of Chairman Research Advisory Council of RIS, Ambassador Sudhir Devari, and member Research Advisory Council of RIS, Professor Pulin Nayak. With this, I think Minister would arrive very soon. We have a few minutes with us in between. So, if you would like to make some remarks, Ambassador Dasgupta, at this point, that would be good, and followed by Ambassador Devari.